All right, we are going live. Live as live can be. David here from Bronze Serpent Chess. And I am super thrilled today because I'm feeling a little more energetic than yesterday. Yesterday, I have to admit, when I started the stream, I did feel like I was dying. But now, I am feeling good. And I'm feeling particularly good because today is the second game of the Carlson Pragg matchup. This game could decide who wins this year's FIDE World Cup. And we might very well have a winner at the end of this game. Of course, it is possible that Pragg could win and he could become the world champion or the World Cup winner champion. I don't know if you want to, you can't really say world champion, but he could take the title today. Carlson could take the title today. Remember, yesterday there was a draw, and today, if we have another draw, then there will be a tiebreaker tomorrow. So, that is what we're looking at. Ah, hello, Rakapadexa. Hello, welcome to you. Nice to see you again. And yeah, we've got everything set up so far. It's looking good. I'm excited about today. Today's going to be a great game, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the game. I have an idea because we've got a little bit of time before the tournament starts. First, I need to get rid of this music. There's some random music in my ear from the other live stream. So we can mute that for the time being. And now what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little bit of time discussing something that I think will be very interesting. And this is not something I've looked at yet. But I would like to do a little bit of exploration on Carlson's opening repertoire. And see what is his go-to usually. So we're going to take a look on 365chess.com. And we're going to take a look at some of the openings that he plays with the white pieces. So we have a few options here. Let's take a look at one of his favorites is the Roy Lopez. Roy Lopez characterized by this kind of setup with the bishop on b5. And this is something that he could go for. It's definitely a way to play that can go a lot of different directions. He has won quite a few games with this opening. One of the oldest openings in chess history, the Roy Lopez, has been around for like 300 years? 200 years? I don't know. So this is a possible option for him in terms of openings with the white pieces. Queen's Gambit declined is another opening he goes for. Petrov's defense, which is quite interesting. I don't know if you'll go for a Petrov here. I think this is this the Petrov? Where you have this kind of symmetrical type opening. And there's a lot of tactics around here with takes, because it is possible to take, but then there are a lot of ways to misstep here. This is an opening that I would avoid if you're a beginner, because there are a lot of potential ways for this to go wrong. But of course, at Grandmaster level, this is completely playable. Definitely a way for him to go. So that's another option. And with the black pieces, well, we're not looking at any of his repertoire playing with the black pieces, because of course he isn't playing with the black pieces today. He's playing with the white pieces. So those are two possible openings. Queen's Gambit declined is also an option. And this might well be a kind of thing that we see. This type of setup, knight to f6, where you have the Queen's Gambit declined. I guess that would be another route for him to go. So let's take a look out of these four openings, or three openings that we've looked at: Roy Lopez, Queen's Gambit, or the Petrov. Out of those three, what do you think Carlson is going to go for? Let's see. I mean, obviously, he could... Pragg could play the Sicilian defense, and, you know, then Carlson's going to have to go along with that. But let's see if we get any of these three openings. I'll give it to you guys as options, and we'll see if we can do a little poll. Okay, so let's start the poll. What will Carlson... Maybe I could go for even a simpler. What will Carlson open with? Question mark. Okay, so let's keep it even simpler. 1, e4, 1, d4. Actually, let's go for those two, because it'll probably be one of those. I don't think we're going to see another English, which is like what Pragg opened with. I mean, he could play something like Knight to g3. It's not out of the realm of possible. Or... But let's keep it as simple as possible because it's likely going to be e4. Let's try e4, 1, e4, or d4. Okay, it might be neither, but take a guess. What do you think Carlson's going to go for? E4 or d4? Let me know in the voting, and you guys can decide what you think will happen. All right, Kanishk Pandey, what's up, man? Nice to see you again. Hope you're having a wonderful day, wherever you are in the world. And we're trying to figure out what do we think Carlson's going to open with. Is he going to play e4? Is he going to play d4? Go for maybe a Queen's Gambit. E4, maybe he's going to be looking at the Royal Lepez, which he's played plenty of times. Those are both playable for Magnus. And the other thing that I want to look at, the other thing that I'd love to look at is the prize money. Gosh, the prize money. But before we look at the prize money, some of you guys will notice, who am I supporting today? Alright, I've put it on the camera, little cartoon. I am definitely in the corner of Pragg today. I would love to see Pragg win this. And if we could see Praggnanandhaa take this one down, I think, man, that would be such a huge confidence boost for him. Going into the candidates, we have this young guy, 18 years old, up-and-comer. And I think this would just be fantastic if he could win this and really get a lot of self-belief behind his game. It really could change the dynamic of elite chess with this young up-and-comer really threatening to have a real go at the title at a young age. Not just this title, but maybe even world champion. We will see. But man, he is definitely someone to watch out for. So super excited today. It's going to be a fantastic day. We're looking at what do you think Carlson's going to open with? Is he going to open with one e4? Or is he going to open with one d4? Let me know what your thoughts are. It's going to be one of those, probably. What if he plays the Nimzowitsch? Yep, that's possible. I haven't put that up. But, you know, let's just keep it simple for now. E4 or d4, it's possible he plays something else. But, yeah, I can't change the options now. So, go ahead, votes. We've got 11 people already. That's awesome. I did start a little bit early. I'm about 5-10 minutes early today. Let me know if you think Carlson will start with e4 or d4. Or if not, you can also comment and let me know what you think. How he's going to open. As you can see, I've got some awesome little icons of Pragg on my camera, and that should show you who I'm supporting today. I'm very, very hopeful that Pragg is going to pull something out with the black pieces, maybe cause an upset, and hopefully at the very least get a draw. If he can get a draw, we'll have a tiebreak tomorrow. Tiebreak will be very exciting. But for now, we are very, very happy, I'm sure, to watch this awesome matchup between Carlson and Pragg today. Yesterday was a little bit unremarkable. We didn't get anything too special. It was a pretty short draw, actually. When I looked at the time after the game had finished, I was quite surprised. I was like, oh my gosh. It's like 3:30 in South African time. And I was thinking, wow, 3:30. That was... I mean, we were watching chess for like 2.5 hours, which is a lot for one game. But in classical terms, and in terms of what we had seen before, pretty short game. A 34 move, 35 move draw, something along those lines. So hopefully we see something a little bit more exciting today. We can know with absolute certainty that Carlson is not going to just sit back and play passively. He's going to have some preparation. He's going to surprise Pragg with some hopefully very interesting lines that are fresh and aggressive and sharp. And we will hopefully get ourselves a great game today with Carlson with the white pieces. We know he's going to attack. He wants to win this now. He doesn't want to take it to a tiebreak tomorrow. But Pragg, he obviously knows that Pragg is incredibly strong right now. He's full of confidence, and he has to be very careful not to do anything that might risk his chances, even though he is playing with white pieces. Oh, today's result will come. No wait for tomorrow. Not draw. Is that right? Is there no tiebreak tomorrow? Ah. Josie's Universe. Today's result will come. So if there's a tie, what's the deal? Okay, we've got 8 votes. 50% of people think E4, 50% of people think D4. That's reasonable. Aaron Falcon says, Carlson Catalan line. He played in game 6 versus Jan. Easy. That's definitely a possibility. Okay, I'm curious about this. I could just be completely behind the ball here. What's the date today? The 23rd. I thought that because there was a draw, I thought there was 2 games, just like the original setup that we had with all of the other pairs and all the other rounds. It was 2 games, and if they both drew, then the third game, or the third round, the third day, was the tiebreaker. 2 standard games, and if they drew those, then a blitz game. How are they going to fit all of that in today? Someone please explain in the chat. I'm confused. Alright, while you guys are giving me some answers, I'm going to find some answers for you guys. I want to know, FIDE World Cup. Maybe you guys can find this out as well. FIDE World Cup. Prize money. Out of curiosity, I'd love to see who gets what. What is the prize money? Winner gets 110,000 euros. I'm imaginary euros. Runner-up is 80,000 euros, and third place gets 60,000. So Abasov, who beat Caruana yesterday, and I imagine he just needs to get a draw today. If he can do that, he gets 60,000 euros, which is pretty fantastic. And he qualifies for the candidates, which is just... Well, he already qualified for the candidates, but I think he must be thrilled knowing that he has a real chance of picking up a medal. I don't think he would have thought for a moment that he would have picked up a medal in this year's FIDE World Cup. So he's going to be really happy with that. And I think... Alright, here we go. Let's see. Today's result... Okay, we haven't heard anything on that front. Let me take a look at the schedule. World Cup FIDE schedule. Alright, we've got the 2023. We'll look on Wikipedia. This will give us some answers. 4th round, 5th round. And let's see here. Okay, first round's a draw, which is what we saw yesterday. Now we're going to the second round with Carlson with the white pieces, Pragg with the black pieces. And if there's another draw, what's the situation? I imagine there's a tiebreaker. I just thought it was tomorrow. Let's see. The only problem, this is frustrating. Every time I look at the the official website, it's not in English. I think it's in Azerbaijani, which, as you can imagine, I don't speak. Alright, let's see here. Okay, today is the 23rd. Oh yeah, you're right. Today's the 23rd. Match for the final and third place is on the 23rd. And then the closing ceremony is tomorrow. Okay, so it seems you're right. So everything takes place today, is that right? We have a tiebreaker and everything. Oh, there are tiebreakers tomorrow if this game is drawn. Ah, I see. I see. Can someone confirm that? I think that's the case, but when I'm looking on the website, I'm not seeing that. So, let's take a look. Maybe I can get some more information here. If you know the answer to that, please let us know, because we're trying to figure this out. So, if there is a draw today, as with all the other rounds, we had, say, draw, or win-loss, and then loss-win. If it was all even after 2 games, then we had a tiebreaker on the third day. So if there's a draw today, is that right? That there will be a tiebreaker tomorrow? Okay, so we've got some footage coming up of the playing venue. We're going to cut to that shortly. They are just rolling through some of the advertising footage before we go into the players at the venue. So we'll take a look at that footage shortly once the players arrive and once we get some footage of them settling in. In fact, I can probably pull it up right now. That would be fine. Let me just make sure everything looks okay. Yep. Let's take a look at the footage. I think it's this one. Is that right? Let's take a look. Nope, not that one. It is this one. There we go. Okay, so they're just rolling some footage from the tournament, and we're going to take a look at the players arriving shortly. There's Pragg and Magnus. I'm sure they're both super excited, super ready for this game. And remember, for Magnus, it might be easy to think, oh, well, you know, he's won everything there is to win. He has not yet won this tournament. So the stakes are pretty high for him as well. He will be wanting to win this game, and I'm sure he has something special prepared with the white pieces. Maybe not e4 or d4, but those are some options that we're looking at in the chat. So in the voting, some likely options. So let us know, what do you think Carlson's going to open with? E4, d4. If it's neither of those, you can let me know in the comments. What do you think he's going to go for? Do you think he's going to play e4, king to e2, a la Bomb Cloud? That's something that would break the internet too. That would be pretty insane. Like an incredibly... Like, I wonder how much money someone would have to pay him to do something that insane. E4, king to e2. Yeah. I mean, we did have it in a semi-serious tournament with Hikaru and Magnus when we had the Bomb Cloud. The so-called hotbox variation, where we had one e4, e5, king to e2, and king to e7. And then the funniest draw by threefold repetition in the history of chess. So that did happen, but of course that was a game where the result didn't matter. It was a dead rubber. And I can tell you one thing for sure, we're not going to see that in this game, unfortunately. Tomorrow there are tie breaks if this is a draw. Okay, all right, I think that seals it. Renila Chess, of course I remember you. Awesome, great to have you join. Basically everyone in the chat, I know all y'all guys. Yep, I'm sure I've seen all of you guys at various points commenting. So yeah, let me know in the comments where you're from in the world, if you're enjoying the chess. We are arriving now at the final stages of this tournament. Man, absolutely thrilling. It's going to be a great game. After all of these many rounds of chess have been played, we finally arrive at Magnus Carlson, one of the best players in the world, one of the best players in history, if not the best player in history, against the young up-and-comer from India, Pragg. One of many up-and-coming strong Indian players, but he is the one, the 18-year-old, who has progressed all the way to the final and now stands knocking at the door, hoping to see if he can seal the deal with the black pieces, or, if anything, just try and hold a draw. I'm sure he'll be perfectly happy with that, knowing that Carlson, playing with the white pieces, is going to be going for the throat. He's going to be going for the kill. That you can guarantee with Carlson. He's going to be trying something hopefully aggressive, hopefully sharp. That's what we want to see in today's game. And it could be decisive. Okay, so the commentators are doing their thing. We're going to cut that footage for the time being. As soon as the players are at the board, I will make sure that we see the players while they're sitting down. And we will have an idea of exactly how they're feeling, how much water they're drinking before the game. As Magnus Carlson's tradition, drinking like 15 liters of water. He's like a camel. Well, I guess maybe not a camel, because camels don't really drink water. They store water. Huh. That's weird. People use that a lot. Oh man, I was so thirsty, I was drinking like a camel. They don't really drink all that much, do they? I suppose they're more known for storing water. Anyway, Carlson is a big water drinker. So, we have 62% of folks thinking 1 e4 and 38% of people thinking d4. It could be e4, it could be d4, it could be something else. If you think it's something else, let us know in the comments. I just went for those two because, you know, easy, easy options and probably the most expected options if you're opening with the white pieces. We did look a little bit in terms of Carlson's opening repertoire. Roy Lopez, he has played with in recent times and been quite successful with, which is e4, e5. And then after knight to c6, the bishop comes out to b5. And that seems to be a possibility. And also Queen's Gambit is up there in terms of openings that he likes to play with the white pieces. But knowing Carlson and knowing Pragg, it could be very... well, it's very open because I think after you play e4, of course, you know, you can say, oh, I want to play the Roy Lopez. If your opponent doesn't play knight to c6, or if your opponent doesn't play e5 and then goes with c5, they're the ones who decide. And I think that is one of the downsides about playing e4 first. And I think in many ways, if we look at yesterday's game, Pragg played c4. And that really kind of maybe dictates things a little bit more because, of course, there's a lot of ways to respond to that. But because it's a less conventional opening, I think it has the potential to be a game that you can play on your terms a little bit more. But obviously these grandmasters, they're so strong, they're so well prepared that I think ultimately nothing really takes them by surprise. They've done so much preparation. So the openings will be interesting, but yeah, it'll be a great game regardless of what they play, really. So let's take a look, see if we have any footage. Yes, we've got a little bit of footage of the playing venue. Got the prize pool up there. You can see $110,000. Okay, they weren't euros. I thought they were euros. $110,000 to first place. So they are essentially playing for $30,000. That is a large amount of money. Probably what somebody could even make in a year. $30,000. That's a pretty decent salary for someone to make in, you know, just a few hours. I guess they've worked really hard for it to get to this point. But now here, I think they might be doing some kind of ceremony over here. Where, let's see what's going on here. Okay, so this is live. I think, are they preparing for the players to arrive? Looks like it. As you can see by my camera frame, I am very clearly rooting for Pragg today. I want Pragg to win. I would love to see the 18-year-old Wunderkind come up with a win and put some serious pressure on the top elite players. I think it'll really mix things up and maybe get Carlson back in the mood for the World Championship even. Who knows? Anything's possible. Alright, so here you can see in the top right-hand corner we have a lot of press lined up. This is a very, very big match. And now we cut to footage of the venue. The board has been set up. Now we just need to wait for the players. They should be arriving shortly. Okay, so we have Fabi at the board. Remember yesterday Fabi played Abasov and Abasov won that game quite emphatically. And now Caruana needs to win on demand to try and force a tiebreak. And here we have Pragg. Pragg is here. The Indian flag on the left. The Norwegian flag on the right. We are ready to rumble. Let's go. This is going to be a great one. I think 1 minute. And in classic Carlson fashion, he is the one who is late again. 50 seconds. Fortunately, with the time being as it is, I don't think it matters all that much if you're a minute or two late. But really, I mean, it's just... that's the one thing. I'm not a huge fan of Carlson just rocking up late. It's a little bit, like, unnecessary. But I totally get the fact that, you know, some people struggle with time. But I find it quite hilarious that he's this genius grandmaster and, you know, can't set your alarm. Make sure that you're there a few minutes before the game starts. So we're waiting for Abasov and... Okay, Carlson and Abasov. I mean, is that the clock on the left? Oh, there's Carlson. Okay, Carlson arrives. We get the handshake. Fortunately, he doesn't shake hands with air this time. It would have been great if he was late and then Pragg shook hands with air. I would be so happy. That would be like very, very memeable. All right. Things are about to kick off. Pragg just adjusting his pieces. We have the ceremonial starting. I don't know who that is. But just a matter of convention. We have someone making the first move. Of course, the player doesn't have to play that move. They can just take the move back and choose whatever they want. But it's just, opportunity to do a little bit of recognition to someone who's very involved in the tournament, setting everything up. All right, let's take a look. We have the board. As it stands right now, we have 1, E4. Okay, hold on. I need to stop the poll because you guys can change your answers. People voting now after E4. All right, 60% of the 25 votes, you were correct. 1 E4 was the move. Not going to get anything too exotic from Carlson. He's going to go for the standard 1 E4. Now the question for us today is, will Pragg play the Sicilian? Is he going to play C5? Nope, he doesn't play C5. He goes with symmetrical play, king's pawn opening, E4, E5 on the board. And now Carlson's going to play king to E2, the bomb cloud. No, sadly not. That would be... Man, we can hope. We can hope for crazy things. Okay, Carlson's grabbing his water. Thinking of what he will do, what direction he's going to go. Okay, we have knight to F3. Knight to F3 on the board. Let me take a look at the stream. And we have knight to C6. So we're going to have the Roy Lopez. Let's see if Carlson plays the Roy. No, he doesn't. Okay, so he goes for knight to C3. And now knight to F6. And this is so great that we're seeing this opening. Because of the fact that if you play chess online, and if you play chess regularly, let me just change the angle so we can get the footage of the players up in the right-hand corner. 1 sec. But if you play chess online, and... Hold on. I just need to sort this out. And then I'll finish my thought. Live feed main. Why is this not showing me what I want to see? Here we go. There we go. All right. So... what I was saying is that if you play chess regularly online over the board, even at a beginner level, you're going to see this setup very, very often. This is very, very common opening. 4 knights, all on, on F3, F6. And now we have knight to D4. And this is also quite a common line. After, this is sort of, this bishop to b6 thing we were looking at a little bit earlier when we were going through the Roy Lopez, because it's a very similar structure. And now we have an exchange of knights in the center of the board. Knight takes d4, bishop, pawn takes d4, and now this knight needs to decide where it's going to go. And this is interesting because, bear in mind, here if you play knight to d5, which is typically the best move, this pawn on e4 is hanging. So to solve that problem, you can do exactly what we've had in the position. You can play e5 and then an exchange of knights, but a roundabout way of exchanging knights. E takes and then queen takes f6 and d takes c. Queen takes and then d takes c. And now we have this interesting situation where white has these doubled pawns on the c file. But he's got his bishop out. He's probably seriously thinking about castling shortly. So after something like bishop to c5, it's perfectly reasonable for Carlson just to castle here. And then at some point bring his rook out maybe. Or maybe not immediately, because then he would be hanging the f2 pawn. But at some point centralizing his rooks would be perfectly fine. So let's get this up on the board real quick. E4, E5. Can't remember the order. I suppose it doesn't matter. Then bishop to B5. Then we had this. And then takes, pawn push, takes, queen takes, and D takes. I imagine D takes. Has that happened yet? Yes. And then bishop to... Okay, so we have this bishop to C5 move. And now we're waiting for a couple of moves. Okay, we have check first. All right, so queen to e2 check, and now forcing black's king to move, which you don't want to do. So in a situation like this, you're going to block, probably with the queen. There's a couple of ways of blocking. You can block on e6 or block on e7 with the queen. And man, it's very possible that we just go into a queenless middle game in a very, very equal position. So all right, let's take a look at some of your comments. Bomb Cloud. Aaron says it could transpose into the Berlin. I think that was a few moments ago. And let's take a look at some of your comments. F4. Tomorrow there are tie breaks if there's a draw. Okay, we discussed that already. Oh, well, you probably saw me after yesterday. I'm watching from India, and you probably know who I'm rooting for. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Kanishk, we played yesterday, man. How can I forget you? You played that insane brilliancy. Those of you watching, I think it was you, Kanishk. We did a little bit of a stream after yesterday's game because it ended a little bit earlier, and I played some of the subscribers, and we had some great games. And I will give some credit to Kanishk in the chats. He played this incredibly brilliant move. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, knight takes d5. No. Knight takes e5, and then what was the situation? Oh, I was playing with the black pieces. It was knight takes d5. And that opened up lines. My king hadn't castled yet. And when we looked at it through the engine, it was a brilliancy. And I was very shocked because I had never seen that knight sacrifice tactic playing the Karo Khan. So you taught me something really new. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, but the game that you played with that knight sacrifice was incredibly interesting and instructive for me. So I appreciate that. Okay, Carlson blocks with the queen on e6. Claude, let me see if I can say hi to Claude. Kitty. Where are you, Claude? All right, let's jump back into the game. Just want to also make sure that the footage is all looking good on the stream. All right, so this is the position as it stands. We have a little bit of a standoff between the two queens. Queen on e2 and the queen on e6. Are we going to have takes? What's going to happen here? So in this position, it's white to play. And okay, so we had queen to e2 and now queen to e6. And it's perfectly fine here to castle. It looks a little bit weird castling because you're like, well, isn't my queen not going to be protected? But then the bishop on b5 can just come back. Hey, Claudie. Claudie. Meow. Do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi to all the nice people watching from home? Hey, Claude. Claude, say hello. Meow. Claudie. I think Claude is feeling a little tender today because he ate something a little untoward and got sick on the carpet, which was suboptimal. Hey, so I think he's feeling a little bit down today, but anyway, he's not too interested in the chess. As we already know, all cats come standard with stockfish, like mittens. So he's already calculated who's going to win this game. He's not interested in the game. Okay, so Carlson with the white pieces here. Castles is fine. A4 is also fine. Pushing the old A pawn up. So let's take a look at some of these. If you castle, then maybe there's an exchange of queens on e2. Takes. And here, white can castle. And really, I mean, if you looked at this game from the opening, maybe it might be a bit disappointed to be like, oh, this is a high-level Grandmaster game, because this looks like a game that I could have played. But it does feel quite passive and slow from both players. The edge is just not here in a position like this. But, of course, there's a lot of room for high-level moves still. And we don't have... do we have a move? No, Carlson hasn't moved. So yeah, it's going to be interesting if we do have an exchange of queens. That might make things look a little bit more like they're heading towards a draw. But I suppose Pragg might consider that perfectly fine thing, exchanging queens, because of the fact that, you know, white has these doubled pawns. Maybe that's something to aim for. And from Pragg's perspective as well, he's probably going to be quite happy with the draw, with the black pieces, knowing that Carlson, if Carlson draws, you know, they're just going to go to the tiebreaker. And it's also possible, from Carlson's perspective, that he's not too upset with the draw. He might think that he has an edge playing this format, the standard games, slightly shorter, and if it comes down to the wire, he might think he has the experience, he has the temperament to be able to win under pressure. However, I think it's not that straightforward, because he would have watched the Caruana game. And if he watched the Caruana game, he would have seen how Pragg played, and he was really playing on sort of a different level in terms of putting or staying calm under pressure. Because that game, there was a lot of pressure on that game. He was coming down to like 1 second, 2 seconds on the clock, and then hitting the clock, and basically just living on the increment, which was quite something. Okay, so we have a move from Carlson. Carlson doesn't castle. He doesn't play a4. He actually plays bishop to c4. That's on the board right now. Bishop to c4. All right, let's get this up and running here. Gonna back up. Queen's still on the board. Instead of castles, sorry, bishop to f4. Bishop to f4. That's the move on the board. And now Pragg can again just take, and you'll take with the bishop. Don't want to take with the king, because you'd really prefer to castle and centralize, connect your rooks, maybe get your rook to e1, get your rook to d1, and try and use these open files, semi-open files, for your rooks. So other options after bishop to f4. Let me know your thoughts if you have any ideas. What do you think you'll play here? If you are playing with the black pieces, you're going to take. There's actually quite a few moves that are perfectly fine here. You can play c6, attacking the light square bishop, and preparing d5 to take control of the center. And once the bishop retreats, you know, black is doing perfectly fine here. The only problem... no, it's not an issue, I don't think. But maybe if you take, then... No, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. So, yeah, this is also a move. c6. Bishop to b6 is a move. Tucking your bishop away. And you can even play king to d8. Gosh, how is this a move? The engines are really... really thinking... Oh, but I guess this is interesting. But I suppose it does the same thing as castles, because you shift your king across and you're threatening to bring your rook to e8, and then just putting pressure on the e file. But you could do the same thing essentially by castling. Can't you do the same thing by castling? And then bringing your rook over here. Maybe there's a difference. Oh, now... oh yeah, you're hanging the c7 pawn. That's the problem. Okay, so then that makes like a perfectly sensible move. You're guarding the c7 pawn, and then you're also threatening to bring the rook across. Oh, okay. Yeah, silly me. So this is actually the idea behind f4, which I just I just figured out now, is that black does have to bear in mind that the c7 pawn is hanging, and the best way to deal with that, actually maybe a move like king to d8 isn't so wild. So Pragg, with the black pieces, the ball is in his court, so he needs to think about the hanging c7 pawn, think about exchanging queen still. That can still happen before he deals with the c7 pawn. So... Bottle of water really helps Carlson. Okay, so here's a little bit of a fun one, folks. We've got 75 concurrent viewers. Don't forget to smash the like button. We got all the way to 100 likes yesterday, which I was absolutely thrilled with. So if you're enjoying the stream, smash the like button. I'd really appreciate it. And I have another serious question for you guys. $110,000. That's the prize money for first. We're going to have a little bit of fun while we're waiting for Pragg to think about what his next move is. And the question is, what are you going to do? If you had that 110,000 US dollars in your bank account today, what are you going to do with it? All right, let's ask that question. What would you do with 110,000 US dollars? All right, so I need some options. Let me know in the comments. What options can I give? I was thinking a house. I mean, some places in the world I wouldn't buy you much, but I know in South Africa you could definitely get something for that. It's like nearly 2 million rand. That's the currency in South Africa, so you could definitely buy a house with that. Probably not in like America, depending on where you live. But that is definitely a possibility, or part of a house. A car. Vacation somewhere, like the most insane vacation of all time, because you'd get a lot for that. Or maybe chess players are more sensible, and we just save the money. All right, let's give you those options. What are you gonna do with 110,000 US dollars? Okay, buy a car. I'll just put car. Car, or we'll put let's see, house, savings, and then the last one, the most insane vacation ever. Alright, that seems irresponsible, but I might do that. No, I would never do that. That's crazy. Alright, hit it, folks. $110,000. Let's play this as part of the poll. 110,000? Why 110,000? Because that is what goes to the winner. Those are the spoils. Oh, pay off student debt. I didn't put that in. Buy a small house in the middle of nowhere. Oh, yeah. Okay, savings, that kind of counts as paying off debt. I should have, yeah. Savings / paying off debt. I can't change it now, but what are you going to do? All right, so here's the position as it stands. We have the last move that Carlson just played. He had played bishop to f4, eyeballing the c7 square. So you can still just exchange first and then deal with this. The other option is just shifting the bishop back to guard the c7 square. Can't castle yet. I was trying to look at the differences between castle and then rook. Almost like castles, and then if you play rook to e8 after takes, I'm just curious there. Sort of just sacrificing this pawn. Play here. And then just queen takes on e6, and this is actually doesn't matter at all. Check, and then just sliding to f1, and there's no real advantage here for black, at least, even though you gain a tempo and white can't castle. So yeah, that's not a move, but you definitely need to deal with the c7 pawn at some point. So there are several ways to do that. Or you can attack something. So that's usually a good thing to remember when you're playing chess. When there's a threat, you can either deal with the threat or give your opponent a bigger threat. Right now, your opponent, Carlson, is threatening the c7 pawn. If you play a6, for example, like, you're threatening something more important. And you're going to have to deal with that first before you think about taking on c7. All right, so what would you do with $110,000, guys? That's the prize money for today. If Carlson wins, if Pragg wins, that will be the spoils. That's what they'll get. So if you had to have that money in your bank account right now, what would you do? Let me know. No one wants to buy a car. I guess it would be a ridiculous car for 110 grand. I mean, what car could you get for $110,000? It would be something ridiculous, like some crazy sports car. It would be way over the top. Okay, make a charity community to help other people, because we live not for money, but we live to help others. we have a winner. That's a pretty good answer. I like that answer, Sanders. Very nice. No one's going for a car. No one's going for the most insane vacation. I like Sanders Aerov's answer. And other people, very sensible, house or savings. This is the thing, is that the demographics of the people who watch chess live streams are very sensible. They're very people who are usually good with money, who are rational thinkers, make good decisions, are charitable, hopefully, when they're not raging over losing chess. Hey, Claudie. Come, kitty. Meow. Upsies. Porsche 911. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm from Indonesia. Oh man, so great to meet you. I actually once was in Indonesia around this time last year, believe it or not. I was in Bali and I climbed Mount Agung, which is the largest volcano on the island of Bali. And that story, let me tell you, that was a crazy story. I'll quickly give you the short version of that story. I started hiking with my group at 10 o'clock at night, and you hike straight through the evening so that you can get to sunrise the next day and be near the summit. So we hiked all the way to around 4 in the morning, and we stopped, made a fire about an hour from the summit, and try to warm ourselves up, because even though Bali, the temperature is beautiful, when you start getting towards the top of the mountain, it does start to get cold there. We got to the summit and it was absolutely beautiful, a little bit cloudy, but incredible. You could see directly inside an active volcano. It was amazing, absolutely beautiful. I was in awe, and a beautiful view of the island. And then we came down. Now, we hadn't slept at all, really. We slept maybe kind of on and off in the car on the way there. It was a 2-hour drive, and we left at 8. So now we've been up all night. We've been hiking throughout the day. And finally, we get back, and we arrive at around 12, 1 o'clock. Get back in the transport, head all the way back to the hotel, because I have a class that I need to teach, an online class, English class, at my hotel at 4 o'clock. So I get back. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept for like the whole day, and I've been hiking nonstop. And then, this is the craziest part, I get into the shower because I need to quickly shower so that I can sit down and teach this English class. And then, what happens? There's a flippin' earthquake. There was literally an earthquake rocking the hotel that I was in. I opened the shower door, and the shower door was like banging against the wall. And I looked outside, and all the water in the swimming pool, it's like waves. It was crazy. So everyone was freaking out, and then there were some warnings that were issued. But eventually everyone was like, okay, no, it's over. And I had to carry on, go and teach my class. You can imagine at the end of that day, I was exhausted. It was a very long day. I was very tired. Okay, I don't want to detract too much from this game, but since we're still waiting on Carlson to move, I feel like I haven't missed out on... on Pragg to move. I feel like I haven't missed out on too much here. So, there are quite a few things to calculate here. I was first making fun of this king to d8 move, but actually king to d8 doesn't look that stupid. Guarding the pawn, also threatening something, and that's usually a good sign. If you can make a move that does two things at once, I think that can't be so bad. But it does go a little bit in terms of like practical development. It goes a little bit against the grain. But the question is, if you do play king to d8, this rook on a8, how are you going to develop that? This one's going to get some speedy development, but then you're going to have to find some creative way of trying to get your bishop out. And also, I was thinking maybe you can play something like c6. c6 feels very uncomfortable if the king is on d8, because now this dark square bishop is, pretty strong. And you're just giving the dark square bishop some squares. It's not a big deal because black has a dark square bishop on the board, but just could be something, a consideration for Pragg. All right, the numbers at the end are casual and not a reference. as much as 100k seems like a lot of cash, but thinking about it, it's really not that much. Yeah, it's kind of, well, it depends where you are in the world. It's like if you're living in America or Europe, it isn't really enough to do anything special with. But if you're in like India or Indonesia or South Africa, I mean, that honestly, that is like a huge amount of money. Probably, I would say a life-changing amount of money for a lot of people. I know it would probably, I don't know if it would be life-changing, but like it would definitely affect me to have that kind of money on hand. So it does probably depend like where in the world you're living and what your present circumstances and also what your living expenses are. But yeah, don't think too many people would turn down 110 grand. Oh no, GM Susanto from Indonesia. He was against Magnus, but he lost. Magnus is too strong. Man, Magnus is such a beast. He's a complete beast. Alright, folks. If you are just joining, this is the position as it stands right now. Magnus Carlson, the Norwegian machine, against Pragg, the up-and-coming Indian Wunderkind, which is German for Wonder Kid. But it's a great game so far. It's been nothing too surprising. Truth be told, I was expecting a little bit more from Carlson. We had okay, this was interesting. We had a kind of a roundabout way of exchanging knights in the opening. Knights were traded off, and then the queens came to the center, offering an exchange of queens that hasn't happened yet. Carlson played bishop to f4, attacking, and now we have the exchange of queens. Okay, so Pragg is not interested in dealing with the threat of c7 yet. First, he wants to get rid of the queens and then decide what to do next. Very sure that we'll see Carlson take with the bishop on e2 and take it from there. What would I do with 110k? There's a question. There's a question. Oh, man, I'm not sure. I like the idea of doing something good with it, not just keeping it all for myself. But I would have to have a little bit of a plan. What? Oh my goodness, Carlson doesn't take with a bishop? What's going on here? Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Takes. He takes with a king. Does this matter? That is really interesting. I suppose it matters less now than it did a moment ago. We were looking at this position and the engine really didn't like king takes e2. Okay, hold on. We've had a few moves. Okay, so this is obviously what they're calculating. Takes with the king. And then black gets the center. Okay. So... Oh, wait, hold on. What was it? It was here. Here. Yeah. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was here, and now it's white to move. Okay, so this is the position. We have a queenless middle game. Carlson took with his king, which is a little bit of a surprise because of the fact that it means that he can't castle. But usually, once the queens are off the board, and there's a significant amount of material off the board, there's not really any serious concern about king safety right now. The king can just shift over to d2, and the rooks can centralize on d1 and e1, and white is doing perfectly fine. And here, maybe it makes a little bit more sense. I think he was aware that Pragg is going to play c6 and d5, and would prefer to have the bishop on d3, even if it means bringing the king out to e2. Leave the bishop on d3, and otherwise, if he takes with the bishop's going to be on e2. And, yeah. It's also possible that the king, being a little bit more active on the second rank, is not the worst place for it to be, and might save you a move later on, depending on what happens heading into the endgame. Priyanka says, I would like to invest most parts and like to go to Togo on a small vacation. That's great. I think, I give this 4 different things. But I think you can definitely mix it up. And I think most sensible people aren't going to spend 110,000 US dollars on a car. There's probably going to be a mix. Maybe buy a car, because you can buy like a cheap car. You can put a deposit down. You can have a little bit of money ready for vacation. So one wonders what these two players might do with their winnings. Okay, so we have another move on the board. The C pawn starts moving. Carlson plays C4. And also, this very logical move. The C pawn is a little bit of a liability right now because it's a double pawn. So if you can accept a trade, get rid of that doubled pawn on the C file, that's probably a good idea. And then if black doesn't accept and doesn't play d takes c, which is the best move, by the way, and just pushes this pawn, maybe that's a little bit too much. That's probably asking too much to play d4. If you play d4, f3, and now it's really interesting. King to e7. So I'm sure we're going to see this. I was actually thinking this a moment ago. Is this on the analysis board? How ridiculous is it? Considering that white has played e2. I mean, we were talking in the opening about this ridiculous thing of like how we could get this bomb cloud with e2, e7. I mean, obviously that was a complete joke. But now it actually is completely reasonable that we have a delayed bomb cloud. e2 and e7. That's pretty legendary. So e7 is actually a completely reasonable move for the king. Again, the queens are off the board. The threats in terms of both kings being in some kind of trouble in a position like this, it's not an issue. So with that in mind, instead of tucking the king away, why not bring the king out and allow it to work its magic and to function like another piece within reason? Bearing in mind that it's very possible that you might exchange bishops and find yourself in an endgame at some point. It's might be a thought to have your king a little bit closer to the center if or when that happens. Looks like we're heading to a rook endgame, and I'm not sure Pragg wants to go down that path. Yeah. Well, it's equal now. I think there's not too much concern as it stands right now. You know what it seems to me? That Carlson almost is treating this day and this game, just in the way that the opening's gone, as like a little bit of a rest opportunity. He's like, I'm gonna surprise Pragg and intentionally draw this so that I can and keep it as simple as possible so I don't have to overthink anything. And try and see if I can recover. Because one of the things that is very easy to forget, that when these players are playing against each other, it's like, if you think of like a tennis game, right? The game ends and the players go back and they take an ice bath and they try everything they can to recover. And often we don't think of chess being like that. We think, well, you're using your mind, so, you know, it's physically not as demanding. Let me just see if I can get rid of the live feed for the time being. Okay, we'll come back to coverage in a moment of that. But let me just finish the point that I was making. So we often think of like chess players as okay, we have exchange of bishops. I'll have to finish that thought later. It wasn't the most interesting thought, so it's fine. All right, what's going on here? We had a couple of moves. All right, so we have an exchange of pawns. This is the best route to go for if you're playing with the black pieces. Takes. And now bishop to g4 check. Okay, so yes, that looks a little bit scary, but of course you can do a number of things here if you do play bishop to g4 check. Specifically, just blocking would be the best way to go. Push f3. You could also play bishop to f5. And now, this is very funny, that we have here on move 15, almost perfect symmetry. The only difference is, you know, you get those pictures when you're like a kid in like primary school where there's two pictures and you have to spot the difference. What is different about the first picture and what's different about the second picture? This is like one of those. It's like you've got the bishops in the center, you've got pawns. The only difference, white's king and the c6 pawn. That's about it. If this was back and this was back, we would have yeah, perfectly symmetrical setup. And what's interesting here, though, there is a difference, because if you think about the threat that black has, is that black is threatening to pick up the c2 pawn, which is exactly what we saw earlier. So it's very possible that white might want to push this pawn at some point as well. And this is what we have, guys. It's on the board. White to move. Okay, white to move. There's a couple of ways to go from here. Rook h to d1. Bishop to b3 is also a move. Just shifting back. And this is very similar to what we saw earlier with the bishop wanting to move back when the c pawn was on c7. We have another move. Let's see. Oh, no, we don't. Okay, so still waiting on Carlson here. Is he going to just slide this bishop back? That might be the way to go. Slide the bishop back, defend the c pawn, and then work on trying to bring these rooks into the center and make them count for something. But it's kind of like that's black's plan too. Black wants to try and get the rooks to control the d file and the e file, and that really is a big part of this position, is the open e file and the open d file. They're both going to be demanding attention from the rooks. So there's two rooks, two white rooks and two black rooks might well find their way onto the e file and the d file at some point. This is the position as it stands. We have, yeah, bishop to f5, and now we're going to take a look at the next move. Okay, so let's take a look at some comments. Pragg's rapid improvement in chess is scary considering the fact that he's still 18 years old. Yes, absolutely true. It's incredible. I think Ali Ezra was the last person to really create that kind of like hype and interest in a young player, because I think he got over 2,800, which is really incredible at a very young age. And he's still up there. I think he's ranked 6th in the world. But obviously, Pragg in this tournament has been on just completely steamrolling the opposition up until this point and playing at such a high level that he's really just been progressing in leaps and bounds. So that said, he is playing Magnus. And I think in this position, if you're playing with black, probably going to be pretty happy with the idea of taking it easy in this game and taking the draw. So just to finish my point about what I was saying earlier, is that you think about tennis players and other athletes, they rest. I was just saying, I'm sure most of you figured that what I was getting at is that chess players also need to rest. They need to take a break and recover. And although, physically they're fine, the amount of energy and calories that your brain expends when you're playing this kind of chess that's extremely reliant on heavy calculating, it's very, very physically demanding, physiologically demanding on your mind, that you have to be able to take a break once in a while. And this might be that break. The players have both been playing for a long time. This might be the break. Let's keep it simple. Not a hugely interesting game, but there's still a lot of moves to be played, but it really does look like, we're heading towards a draw already, just after 15 moves. But it's Carlson's at play, bearing in mind the c2 pawn needs to be dealt with. So bishop to b3 could be a possible move. Jan is here. Hello. Nice to see you. I think Magnus is trying to prove that the current time format is too boring. Spending 2 hours for a draw. Yes, absolutely. And this is a big thing for the current time situation, which a lot of people have mentioned. And obviously Carlson is the most important person that's talking about this right now. And that's basically his protest, is that he doesn't want to play another World Championship match where you play like, you know, all of these games and end up drawing like 90% of them. And then everything relies on like one or two games where there's like tiny little fractions of an opportunity. And that it's too much. And it's not particularly interesting. And I think it's unfortunate because people are so interested in chess right now that, fortunately, weirdly, with Carlson not have played in the last World Championship match between Nepo and Ding, those two players ended up giving an incredibly entertaining match between the two of them. So it's a little bit tricky. It's a little bit tricky. You can see from Carlson's perspective, he knows that like just grinding out all of these draws is not that interesting. But it is also because he plays so well at such a high level that his opponents are forced to accept that they're going to be drawing a lot. Whereas maybe against other weaker opponents, they're going to take their chances, which is exactly what we saw in the World Championship between Ding and Nepo. Isn't Magnus also like the best rapid player of all time? No need to beat Pragg in a painful classical game when you can just play rapid and be way better. So true. Yeah, I mean, Carlson is such a beast at all formats, but yeah, rapid is definitely a strength of his as well. And I think he'd be perfectly happy going into a situation where he has more opportunities and more of an edge, instead of trying to play something slightly risky and losing with the white pieces. Why not give yourself another opportunity and see if you can make some magic happen in the standard, in the rapid games or in the blitz games. Blitz game. All right, so we have a couple of people voting. Car, house, savings, the most insane vacation ever. Can you ever take on c2 after rook to c2? The bishop has to move and you have to play... and you have bishop takes f7, picking up the pawn against and recovering the bishop. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Can you ever take on c2 if you play... which rook to c2? Oh, this bishop to g6. Okay, let's take a look at this. So, playing here. Alright, the engine just suggests castles here, and then you can actually just give this up, which is interesting. So it takes on... Okay, we have a move. Let's head back to the game. So we have rook to d1. Rook to d1 is on the board. That's interesting. Rook to d1 is on the board. So this was also an engine suggestion. Let's take a look. Rook to d1. And now you can take... Bishop takes on c2. But now rook d to c1. Just moving across. And now there's some tactics here. Because once the bishop retreats back to f5, you actually have this take. And then you can recover the bishop on c5. I think, Aaron, is that what you were talking about? I imagine. So after king takes, rook takes on c5. And now rook a to e8 check. So we throw this in. And then you can block with the bishop. So this would be a possible line that we might encounter. And if you give up this pawn, it looks like you're giving it up, but there are some tactics around regaining the pawn by sacrificing the bishop and then picking up the dark square bishop on c5. The one thing that this will do is that it creates a little bit of an imbalance, because then you have opposite colored bishops on the board once the other two bishops are gone. I think. Let's check that again. Yeah, you have these two bishops left. So you're sacrificing this one, and then you're picking up this one. So that could be a possibility after rook to d1. Looks like the c2 pawn is hanging, but not really. Okay, so here, instead of dealing with the c2 pawn, it's apparently a5 is a move. Chucking this pawn down the board. You can also just castle. Kingside. And now the idea, I suppose, is trying to get your rooks into the center, take control of the d file or the e file, and see if you can get some kind of advantage if you're playing with the black pieces. Okay, Aaron, that's what you were talking about. Awesome. Alright, so this is the position as it stands right now. Kind of curious. Let's do a little bit of a review and see if we can spot. Okay, let me just pull up the main feed so we have some footage of the game. Alright, so as we've often seen in this game so far, we have Pragg and Carlson. Carlson not at the board, and Pragg deep in thought here. So let's back up. So far, both players playing with 99% accuracy so far. Let's take a look. Sorry. Man, this thing is so tricky. Oh, I can just go back and then it'll show me. Perfect. Alright, so all of this is booked. This is the 4 Knights opening. We have the exchange variation. So this is all theory. And then I'm curious at what point we have a new game. Is it here? Let's see. We have 7 games with this position, 8 games with this position, and a lot of them do end in draws. So this is actually still theory, which doesn't really surprise me. Okay, back to the game though. So we would expect, if they were to continue in theory, is for Pragg just to castle here and continue. Alright, and we do have castles. Castles on the board. Pragg making his note diligently. And now, Carlson to move here. Castles. Oh wait, there's something different in this position that I forgot to put in. I don't know why I didn't put it in. Alright. Check blocks. And then we didn't have castles first, did we? Let's back up. I missed something here. I forgot to place C6. Where does C6 come in? 5. Exchange. Oh, yeah. Alright, let's put that in. Was it castles first? Oh, no, it wasn't. It was bishop to f5. And then takes... No. Bishop to f5 and then c? No. Takes and then... Okay. Takes... King takes. And then... that. And then... We had this... Is the symmetrical thing happening now? Ah, yeah, it was exchange of pawns. That's right. Forgot about this. Takes, takes, and then this, and then castles, and now... Oh, wait, hold on. I missed the move. It was, oh, rook to d1 first, and then castles. So, yeah. Okay, so Carlson wasn't, Pragg wasn't interested in taking the c2 pawn, just castles instead. And now Carlson plays bishop to d3. Okay. Challenging this light square bishop. So this is the position as it stands right now. And we have a queenless middle game. Just rooks and bishops on the board. And we have another move. We have bishop returning to e6. It's not returning to e6. It wasn't on e6, but it's moving back to e6. And now Carlson has, you know, some decent control. Some good scope with a light square bishop. It's not that important right now, but it's a very good place for the bishop to be on d3. Alright, if you are just joining us, we are watching the second game of the Magnus Carlson Praggnanandhaa game. And I wish I could say that it was really gripping and super exciting and life-changing, but it's been somewhat unremarkable. In fact, a big chunk of this game, even so far, is in theory. Let's see if it's still theory. If there are any games that haven't been played. Okay, there are no games in the database in this position. All right, so check. Yeah. Okay, so this is a new game, but very recently a new game. So we're outside of theory now, and now Carlson plays king to f1. Just moving his king out of the way and allowing the rooks to come and take control of e1 and d1, possibly. It's very important, I think, here to know that this bishop, even though it looks like it's eyeballing the a2 square, you can always just play b3 and trap the bishop, which I think happened in a famous Fischer championship game where he sacrificed the bishop for 2 pawns and ended up losing in the endgame. So yeah, you can happily move the rook from a1 just about wherever, and the threat of bishop taking on a2 is never going to happen. All right, let's support Magnus. Civil says. I'm sorry, Civil. I am supporting Pragg today. I've got the little Pragg cartoon figures on my camera. I'm a big Pragg fan, and I'm hoping that he wins today. Although I will be very happy, and I'm sure he will be very happy if he gets a draw. We have rook to e8. Rook to e8, and this is exactly what we're expecting. Both players wanting to take control of the e file and the d file with their rooks. They're nice and wide open, so it makes a lot of sense to have your rooks on e1 or e8 or d1 and d8. Kanishk Pandi asks, what did I miss? Okay, let's update you. So we'll go all the way back to the beginning. We had e4, e5, and we get the 4 knights variation. I think, what was it? The Rubinstein variation. Let me just check again. Yeah, 4 knights game, Spanish variation, the Rubinstein variation. We have exchange of knights. All of this is theory. And then here king takes on e2, which I was quite surprised by, but this has been played before, so not that surprising. Exchanging the pawns. Bishop comes to f5. Knight to d1, and here you are threatening taking, but it's not as scary as it looks. For example, takes, you can just move the knight across, the rook across, and threaten the bishop. After the bishop moves back, you can sacrifice the light square bishop and then regain the bishop and regain the pawn. So that was one possible route to go. We didn't see that. Instead, Pragg just castles. Carlson brings his bishop to d3, and Pragg takes his bishop, puts it on e6, and then king to f1, rook to e8, and now this is the last move. Now we're absolutely up to date. We have b3. This is the position as it stands now. Now, what's the point of a move like b3? What does b3 achieve? Let's see. b3. Okay, we have another move, though. Let's get both of these on the board. b3 and then rook to d8. I think this is not up to date. Hold on. Okay. What was the previous move after Carlson played here? Oh, we had the rook move and then the 2 rooks coming to the center. Which is exactly what we expected. Okay, so now Pragg has complete control of the E file and the D file. Not complete control because, you know, he has to deal with Carlson's rook on D1 for the time being. But Carlson, what does he play here? Let's see. What is the way to go? Bishop to E5 is one option. Looks a little bit scary because you're threatening to take on B3 and then take with the rook. So let's see what happens if you do that. If you just take here. C takes B. Ah, this is so clever. Okay, so this is the tactic. I missed this. So here, C takes B, and if you take, then you can sacrifice the bishop and pick up the exchange. So that's why you don't want to do that. So nothing wrong with putting the bishop on E5. Looks a little bit scary, but it's not a bad place for it to be. But instead, we have rook to e1. And this is something that I mentioned long ago, long ago, before we even got to this point. But it's pretty easy to predict. Both players are going to want to fight for the e file and the d file. And we have rook to e1, and then really suspecting that Carlson's going to play rook to d1, rook a to d1 next. And it's interesting, he's played b3, and I was thinking, well, does it really matter if he plays b3? He could have played just rook to d1 immediately, and if the bishop captures, you can just play b3, and the bishop's trapped. But I think the problem here is that black is going to, at some point, start pressing on the queen side. And then it becomes a possibility that if these pawns are a bit further down the board on the a file, then you can push this pawn and kind of untrap your bishop. So to avoid any of these types of tactics, okay, so we have rook a to d1. He instead just plays b3 as sort of a precaution. Now bishop to b4. This is okay, so let's see here. What happened? No, this wasn't on the board. So we had this, and then hold on. Oh, okay, so that was the move I missed. And then king to f8. So this is the position right now. Still equal. White is doing pretty good here. Black is doing pretty good here. The engine thinks that there's like the tiniest of tiniest edges for white, for Carlson. And if you look at the position, yeah, the idea here, is both players are just fighting for the e file and the d file. And now Carlson plays f3. Plays f3. Is really here trying to control all of the light squares. And just not allowing this light square bishop really any room in terms of developing. If you think about where this light square bishop can go. Okay, yeah, I can go to d5. But I can't go here, can't go here. Can't really challenge the light square bishop on d3. And now its sort of scope is limited. So I think this makes sense. Just making sure that your pawns are doing good things. Alright, now we have bishop to b4 from Pragg, which attacking the rook on e1. And now where does the rook go? Rook doesn't have to go anywhere because you can just block. You can block with bishop to d2. And you can takes, and then a5. Okay, so there you can kind of see Black's idea of trying to develop these pawns. But the problem here about this position, and this is why it's very, very drawish, is that there's no majority on either sides. It's 3 for 3 in terms of the pawns. 3 pawns on this side, 3 pawns on this side. So the king and queen side, they're kind of like at a little bit of a stalemate already. And I think that is going to really limit both players in terms of making progress. Everything is so balanced. It's like there's no imbalance in the position. You have the same material, exactly the same material. And that doesn't very often happen in a game where you'd expect one of the players is trying to win. So that tells you quite a bit about this game. Please don't slow. What did I say? Osama bin Laden. Did you just want me to say your username? There, I've said it. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, let's end the poll and take a look at the poll results. Alright, 53% of people say that they would have taken that cash if they had won $110,000. And they would have put it in savings. 26% on a house, 10% on a car, and 9% of people say the most insane vacation ever. Yeah. Those are all great things to spend your money on, I think. Someone did say they wanted to spend it on charity, though, and I think that's fantastic. Hey, Claude. Kitty. Could just buy like a little cat sanctuary. That would be money well spent. Hey, Claude. Come here. All right, I need to try and convince Claude just to sit on my lap. I'm going to be very careful. Going to be very careful. All right, guys, we're up to 20 likes. Let's see if we can get to 30. Smash that like button. All right, back to the board as it stands right now. This is the position. Pragg has just played bishop to b4, attacking the rook on e1. Now, what will happen next? Objectively, there's no way Pragg is beating Magnus on tie breaks, Tony Stack says. Yeah, I think it's possible. And the only reason why I'd say it's possible is not like looking at his rating or at his experience, but looking at one thing. And that Pragg has a lot of confidence right now. If he gets a draw here with the black pieces, which is looking likely, I think Pragg is going to feel, 18 years old. You're just like, man, I'm like crushing it. I'm dominating. And I think he's going to have that sense of internal confidence, which will help him going into the tiebreak. So I don't think it's going to be like that straightforward necessarily. Hey? Kitty. All right, so we have rook to e4. This is an interesting option. Rook to e4. You're pulling the old Uno reverse card on the bishop. The bishop was attacking you. Now you're attacking the bishop. You see that. Hey. Just say hi to everyone. All right. Man, I cannot keep this cat on my lap. He just hates me. In the way only a cat can hate you. All right, so we have rook to e4, attacking the bishop. What's the deal with this? It's actually a perfectly fine place for the bishop for the rook to be, especially with tempo. It's a little bit scary because you feel like your opponent's going to play bishop to d5 at some point. But first, you need to deal with the fact that your bishop's under fire. So where does the bishop go? The bishop doesn't have to go anywhere. You can actually just defend. Looking at this, you can play a5. a5 is perfectly fine. But now, bishop to d2, which you could have played earlier, and now you're probably going to exchange takes and takes. So I'm just like looking at this position thinking, how is anyone, if anyone, going to gain an advantage in this position? I mean, where is that advantage going to come from? It's very difficult to see. a5. Yes, a5 looks like a completely reasonable move. Defend the bishop on b4. And then can figure out what to do next. a5 is a good move because earlier the engine was saying a5, even when the bishop wasn't on b4, is a good move to play. So if it was a good move earlier, and it was just developing the pawn and pushing the pawns forward, trying to make progress on the queen's side, and now it does two things. It still achieves that, but it also protects the bishop on b4. It's definitely twice as good a move now. a5 or just bishop to c3 is another move. And this dark square bishop's doing quite well. Bishop to c3. But I prefer, just looking at it, I prefer a5. a5 looks like one of those 2-for-1 moves. Okay, so we have the live feed of the players up again in the top right-hand corner. I am absolutely hoping that Pragg finds some magic in this game. Can he do something in this absolutely dead equal position? Can he mix things up? Can he find some small edge here for black? It's hard to say. A5. Try and maybe break things open on the queen side. I'm not sure. What longer term plans do you have here? That's the real question. A5. Maybe trying to push these pawns. Trying to break things open. It just... You just have to be careful because there's also, you know... I think with a bishop here it's probably fine. A5... C5, the rook's here, so you can't even play C4 for the time being. Actually, would actually be nice to try and play B5, C5 and C6. Start sort of clamping down in the center on the queen side. But of course you can't do that because this light square bishop is just controlling all of those squares. Maybe you can come back with your bishop and then see if you can make it work. But yeah, I think, you know, White just needs to play A4. And he's going to be contending with you on the queen side. So, all right, so we have another move. The bishop comes to C5. Pragg plays bishop to C5. And now the engine thinks there are a couple of moves that you can go for. G4 is one of them, though. G4. And now White is trying to press a little bit more on... along the G file. G5, G4, H4. Maybe trying to break things open here. See if you can make H5 happen. And then, yeah... So I think from White's perspective, there's a little bit more in terms of a plan. By playing G4 and H4, trying to open things up, play King to G2, and then swing the rook round to H1, and see if you can take control of the H file. Because this situation where you have this kind of Mexican standoff between the two rooks, it's not gonna create any imbalance in the position. So trying to find some kind of way of infiltrating along the H file, that might be a possibility for White. That's one possible idea. And from Black's perspective, I mean, there are ways to defend it against this. But maybe you need to think about, yeah, exactly what that looks like. It might then, if White starts getting a little bit ambitious here, you might want to kind of pull the rook cord and just start trading off pieces. Just get the bishop out the way and then just start trading everything off. Yeah, but even if you play G4, the engine's thought about it enough. It still says it's very equal. You can actually just play A5 still. Still likes A5. And while you're pressing along the G file, Black can press along the A file. Okay, so we have rook to E1. After the bishop moves back, and now you can see Carlson is the one pressing along the E file. Still doesn't matter. You can play bishop to B6 here. Move the bishop back. Or A6. A6. What's the idea of A6 here? Okay, hold on. We have another move. All right, we have bishop to D5. Bishop to D5, attacking the rook, and we have an exchange of rooks. Very quick. All right, let's just take a look at that. Let's just take a look at that in slow motion. Slow motion replay. All right, bishop to D5. Rook takes, and are we going to have another exchange of rooks? Let's see. Pragg is thinking. Oh, but it's Carlson to move now. So Carlson can go for another trade. Let's see if that happens. Rook takes E8 is kind of what you'd expect. But then... Oh, but we don't have that. All right, let's get this up on the board. So we can see what's going on here. There was a bishop to d5. I think it was this. Is this the situation? Yeah. So this is the position as it stands. Carlson plays bishop to f5. And yeah, now we have these two opposite colored bishops against two opposite colored bishops. It's just very, very equal. Rook takes e1 is the best move, and that's what we have on the board. All right, let's pull up the second feed so we can see this a little bit clearer. And now king to e7, and it is really just the point where you would expect a couple of moves. I think, let's just get this on the board real quick. Takes, now king to e7. King to e2. So if we get king to e2, we will eventually get our delayed bomb cloud, which is what we were hoping for in the beginning. A very, very delayed bomb cloud. All right, we have a whole bunch of moves here. All right, c4, takes. I would not be surprised if we saw a draw. The players agreed to a draw. All right, we have h3. And we have h5. I get the impression that these players are like, oh man, you know what I'd love is to just like sit back, relax, and just wind down for the evening. And maybe watch some television, order some pad thai, and wind down. And we have a draw. Exactly what I expected, what everyone on Earth expected. And this is the position as it stands. Just a few hours today. We started at, not even, it's like an hour and a half. I don't know how long I've been streaming, an hour and a half. And we have a draw. So the game will be decided tomorrow. Pragg and Carlson doing a little bit of a post-mortem on the game. But you can see both in good spirits. I think they're going to have a big game tomorrow to decide it. So they both move to the tiebreak, and we'll see exactly how that plays out tomorrow. But for the time being, we're still Abasov and Caruana are playing. And we can spend a little bit of time looking at that. But first, let's take a look at the chat and see where people are. Yeah. Well, that was quick. Absolutely. It was a real quick one. And that is a wrap for today. But I think maybe we can spend a little bit of time, since they ended early, we can spend a little bit of time looking at the Caruana game, because that should be interesting. Let's see how Fabi's doing. So this is the Caruana game, and this is very interesting, because remember, here, Caruana is playing Abasov. Abasov won yesterday, and if he just gets a draw today, he's going to be in prime condition, or prime place, to pick up the trophy, or pick up the third place medal. But right now, unfortunately for Abasov, Caruana looks like he's done very, very well with the white pieces, and we might see a tiebreak from the two of them tomorrow. So let's see what happened here in the opening. Okay, we had a Sicilian defense. And, okay, so Abasov allows this knight to c7 move. Forking. Takes, and hold on. Let's just see here. What is going on here? I want to see the, okay, so this is a brilliancy, move 10. Okay. Castles, this isn't great. Takes. Okay. Whoa, this is very sharp. Okay, this is like an ultra sharp Sicilian. Takes. This is often what you see with the Sicilian, where both players... Well, I mean, Black didn't get a chance to castle, but it's just like an absolute bloodbath with both players racing towards each other's king. And yeah, this is a fascinating game. So this is not the Magnus Carlson game. Let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of that for the time being. And we can get rid of the main feed too. And wow, this is super fascinating to see exactly how Abasov and Caruana face off here. Let's take a look at the analysis. We'll just do a little bit of analysis for the time being. Knight to e7 for black. That seems to be the way to go. Let's take a look at this. Knight to e7. And then knight to c7. Trying to get the knight out of harm's way. Putting pressure on this pawn. Bishop to e6. Trying to hang on to this pawn. And now h4. So in this position, Abasov is down a pawn, or a pawn's worth of material. Let's take a look. Let's say Caruana has a queen, a rook, and a bishop, and 2 pawns. And Abasov has a queen, a knight, a bishop, and 3 pawns. So Abasov's down the exchange, but he's up a pawn. That's about the size of it. And he takes... Rook takes, and this is very, very sharp. I think a big part of the problem here is that this king is out in the open. And there's a material advantage, a slight material advantage for white. But those things together could mean that Abasov is going to be desperate to try and hold on for a draw here. Aaron Falcon, yes, it was a draw. It was a very quick draw today, so it wasn't a particularly long game. But I think Carlson perfectly happy to take the draw. And yeah, that's a wrap for today. So I'm gonna end today's stream, and then tomorrow I will come back and I will spend some time streaming the finals. We'll do the rapid games, and if there's another tiebreaker, we'll look at the blitz game. But yeah, that's a wrap for today, guys. Thank you for watching the stream, and as always, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night wherever you are in the world. All right, everyone, have a good one. I'll see you guys all soon. Bye bye.